On a quiet farm, bathed in golden sunlight, Bronco pulled the plow across the rich green field. From morning until dusk, he worked without complaint. His muscles strained, his breath grew heavier, and with every step through the soil, the weight on his body felt a little greater than the step before. Not far away, Arthur, the owner of the farm, wiped the sweat from his brow and kept urging the horse forward. To Arthur, this was simply another day of hard labor. To Bronco, it was another day of giving everything he had. The sun slowly drifted lower in the sky. Its bright light softened into a warm evening glow, and at last, when the work was done, Bronco made his slow, exhausted walk back to the barn. His head hung low, his legs trembled with fatigue. He did not dream of rebellion. He did not dream of escape. He only dreamed of rest. Inside the quiet wooden stall, Bronco tried to catch his breath. That was when Felix, the cat, leaped lightly onto the fence and looked down at him with curious eyes. Bronco, too tired to guard his heart, spoke in a low and weary whisper. He said he wished, just once, for one single day to rest. Just one day to breathe. Just one day without the burden of the plow. It was a small confession, a private thought, a tired soul asking for mercy from the world. But Felix did not carry that thought with care. He carried it with interest. As evening deepened, Felix slipped away from the barn and crossed the fading farmyard. The light had begun to cool. The warmth of the day was disappearing. He found Bessie resting in the meadow and bent close to whisper into her ear. Only now, the words were no longer the same. Bronco's wish for rest became something sharper, darker, and more suspicious. A simple cry of exhaustion became a dangerous complaint. Bessie's eyes widened. Shock slowly turned into judgment. She chewed in silence, staring toward Bronco's stall, as if she had suddenly discovered something disgraceful in him. Then, with the last warmth draining from the sky, she rose and made her way toward Billy the goat. Over the fence, Bessie shared the story again. But by the time it reached Billy, it had changed once more. Now the story was no longer that Bronco was tired. Now it was that Bronco wanted to refuse work, that he no longer accepted his duty, that he was stirring defiance. Billy's ears shot upright. His face tightened with alarm, then outrage. And once outrage took hold, truth no longer mattered. The rhythm of the farm changed. The whispers traveled faster. The air turned colder. Billy rushed across the yard, spreading the rumor from one frightened creature to the next. Every retelling added more poison. Every whisper buried the truth deeper. What had begun as weariness now sounded like betrayal. What had begun as pain now sounded like rebellion. And all this time, Bronco knew nothing. In the barn, shadows stretched across the wooden floor while he lay still, trying to recover from the long day. Outside, the storm was gathering, not in the sky at first, but in the minds of those who had chosen to believe the worst. At last, Billy ran to the farmhouse and cried out until Arthur came to the door, irritated and angry at being disturbed. Billy bleated frantically, tossing his head, acting as if urgent danger had taken root inside the farm. Arthur listened through his frustration, through his own impatience, through the noise of accusation. And then something changed in his face. Annoyance hardened into anger, anger into certainty. He believed Bronco was turning against him. From the shadows, Felix watched, Bessie watched, Billy watched, and above them all, the sky darkened into a deep and threatening blue. Arthur stormed toward the barn. His steps were heavy. His rage was louder than reason. He reached for the leather whip hanging on the wall, and in that moment, the farm no longer felt like home. It felt like a place where fear had defeated understanding. Inside the stall, Bronco woke with a start. He saw Arthur enter, carrying fury in his face and accusation in his voice. The horse stepped back in confusion, then in fear. He did not understand what crime he was being blamed for. He did not understand how one quiet wish had become a sentence against him. Arthur shouted. Bronco trembled. The barn grew darker, colder, heavier. The deep blue of the night pressed in around them like sorrow itself. From a distance, Bessie and Billy stood frozen in silence. This was no longer gossip. This was consequence. And yet it had come from their own mouths, their own choices, their own willingness to pass along what they never truly knew. Night finally settled over the farm. A single oil lamp flickered inside the barn, casting long, fragile shadows across the walls. In its weak light, Bronco's eye glistened. A tear formed and slowly fell, catching the trembling reflection of the flame. And then the camera pulls back, farther and farther away, until the farm is swallowed by darkness, until the noise is gone, until only silence remains. This is the tragedy of trust. Not every wound is made by hands. Some are made by whispers, by careless mouths, by people who reshape pain into scandal and exhaustion into guilt. Bronco asked for rest, but the world around him turned his honesty into danger. And that is how innocence is lost. Not always through evil that arrives loudly, but through rumor that travels softly, quickly, and without mercy.